How many Chinese gamers already joined?
Right now, we have 180,000 from China.
What partner? How about Japanese?
For Japanese, we have 15,000.
The mother of gamer esports and the core gamer team.
Korea.
We have 5,000 from Korea.
어둠의 게임 기자 줄여서 어김기.
So let's talk about how we met and how we started. I remember sending you a cold mail out of blue purposing of Korean translation. And be honest, what was your first reaction? Did you almost delete it or thinking about it spam, something like that?
So the funny thing is, and you don't know this, but this is actually also how we got many of our translations. So we got our Chinese translation from I forget whether he was a college or a PhD. I think he was a PhD researcher. We have a Ukrainian translation, and that's also how we got that. And so one of the reasons why it's hard to so of course, if we go to a professional translation service, they'll translate it for us, but they'll miss a lot of the nuances, because to do what we do, what you did well in terms of translations, you need someone who speaks gamer in 2 languages, and then understands what we do, right? And why we're asking these questions. Because I think with a lot of professional translation services, they will miss the gamer jargon, the gamer nuance. They'll try to make it sound too professional. Whereas we're trying to come up with these questions that make sense to the everyday experiences of gamers, and come up with questions that making sure the gamer language and the psychology language is culturally fluent and captures the nuances when we're crossing cultural boundaries. And I think that combination is not easy to find. And so, in fact, we're always on the lookout for people take the initiative or are curious enough to say, hey, I see you have these languages, I can help you do this. And then we're always happy to explore if they have the right mix of background. And we Nick and I, my business partner Nick, and I, we both chatted. We're like, I think Minwoo sounds great. Yeah, let's bring him on.
Appreciate it. Some little bit the thing about the jargon that I never told you about the jargon. I tried my best to not use jargons, because in Korean gamers communities, there's a teenager gamers and 아저씨 gamers, means age 30, 40s and 20s and 30s. There's a lot of spectrums of age in Korean gamers. So they use different jargons. So what teenagers use, the ajashi doesn't use.
That's funny.
So I was like, what I concern about is how should I not use the jargons to try everyone in the gamers in Korea participate. So something like this, we went through very detailed cross-checking process about some localizing nuances in Korean. 뉘앙스. I remember the detail about the social to 교류 or 사회, something like that. So what did you think about this collaboration process, and were there any specific interpretation that stood out to you, something like that?
I think the social was a really good example, because I speak Chinese, and it's also similar to that in Chinese, that there isn't quite the right word. And I think even in English, we're stretching a little the typical usage of social in terms of what it covers. And I think different languages have different challenges. And I think what you mentioned about the different age cohorts and the different vocabulary they use, that's something that I would never have known. And that's very much something that we would rely on, that local nuance for in terms of the linguistics and the culture. But I thought the process we went through, and us, I think the important thing is that, we help you understand what the question we were trying to get at meant, and then to make sure we were translating semantically rather than being stuck in the exact word. I think that was very much the process that we wanted to take as well.
Great. One of the most difficult thing was social and the niche games, because there's no vocabulary about niche in Korea. Yeah. So minor, major, or hidden gems or popular. It was quite like typical and hard to translate. That's what I remember.
Interesting. I'll give you another example. Like when we were working with a Chinese translator,
Mhm.
the Chinese translator took the initiative. You know the gamer type mottos. So
Yeah.
the short sentence next to every gamer type. This person like just found like really fitting. In Chinese, we have like 4-character idioms. I think in Korean you have something similar, right?
Yeah, we
청유
have.
in Mandarin. So this like the Chinese translator came up with 4-character idioms for each of the. I was so impressed. I was like, wow, you know, yeah.
We call that 사자성어. 사자성어 means four character, like 1, 2, 3, 4 character idioms.
We had to memorize them as kids, and then there are so many. But
Wow.
yeah, so on the Chinese version, the mottos are 4-character idioms. So that was an interesting translation that he did.
I also noticed that because it was the end of our process about the mottos, right? All the things in Mandarins were 4 characters. So wow, that was quite amazing.
Right?
And
Yes, I was
yeah.
so impressed because I didn't ask him to do it, you know, but he was like, oh no, this is totally fine. This makes sense. I'm like, and I read over, I'm like, yes, these do make sense. I was so impressed.
For some little bit details about Korean gamers, how they respect Chinese gamers, or especially in the esports scenes. The esports reporter in Chinese, they are so amazing about express how this game battle was, and they use all the old poems like and the ancient Chinese poems like
Crazy.
Or even they said like the Faker, one of the popular sports gamers in Korea, they call them into some like gigantic Chinese battle neath the Demon King, something like that. So we always amazed about their expressions, something like that.
Yeah, sometimes it gets very intense on the literature side. Yes.
They're so cool. So, while we are talking about some Chinese things, this is the precise reason why I reached out to you. You know, I noticed that the profile was already available in Japanese and Chinese, but Korean was missing.
Yes, it was.
As a Korean gamer, as a Korean gamer, I couldn't just stand by and watch it. Really. So my goal was to finally bring Korean gamers onto this global gamer battlefield of gamer data. So tell us about the scores. So roughly how many Japanese and Chinese gamers have participated so far? We need to know the target number to beat it.
Yeah, so right now for Japan, we have about 15,000. For China, we have about 185,000. We do have some who are from Korea. They probably took the English version. We have about 5,000 currently from Korea.
Already 5,000 people are joined.
Yeah.
Great. So yes, now we see our goals to be Chinese gamers and Japanese gamers. About the being competitive aside, from a researcher perspective, how many Korean participants would you need as a minimum baseline to statistically analyze the unique characteristics of Korean gamers? The reason why I ask you this is I saw in the GDC and some other presentations, you compare like Peru gamers and the North American gamers, something like you clusterize all the data set nation by nation. So I was really curious about it.
Like with data, it's always the more the better, because the more data we have, the more we can do not only comparisons of all the gamers of Korea to some other country, but also within Korea, male versus female gamers, older versus younger gamers. And the more data we have, the more of those comparisons we can do. So we're very much looking forward to seeing how much data we end up with. And I think it would be great, if in a few months or half a year, we come back and say, hey, Minwoo, we got this much data, and here's some interesting findings we found that we can share with you back with your gamers back in Korea. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Great. So from now, our key goal is just, first of all, beating Japanese gamers and then Chinese gamer. There will be some Korean data set, something like that. So if we rally together and reach the goal, something like that, could we look forward to have a special blog post or report analyzing the special trend of Korean gamers from your team and your company?
I think that would be a lot of fun. I think, doing a blog post of, here are top 5 things we learned about Korean gamers. I think that'd be a really fun blog post to do, and also in comparison, in cooperation with you, and just having another, quick chat and showing you what the findings are, and then have you explain what, how you would make sense of those findings from a cultural standpoint.
Great. I really hope to get the analysis and all the Korean gamers will read that. So, yep, I want to dive a bit deeper. So I was fascinated what I still saying about GDC, right? I was fascinated about your GDC 2019 talk where you discussed about the things and data sets, or what you formally explained about the factor analysis, like Richard Barter's player types and so on. The thing is, recently, the Korean Netflix documentary, The Save the Game, introduced about Richard Barter's type to explain Korean gamers. While interesting, some Korean gamers are eager to break free from the stereotype about Korean gamers. Yeah, the Korean gamers, they kill the Diablo on a day, the launch or something like that. They're all hardcore gamers, something like that. So do you think this Quantic Foundry gamer motivation model can help to reveal the true diversity of Korean gamers beyond these stereotypes upon Korean gamers, something like that?
Yeah, I think especially if we get gamers who span, like very different demographic cohorts, that we're not only recruiting, very hardcore leading gamers to take the survey, but to get a broad, collection of gamers to really understand not only how they compare on competition, but across the 12 motivations to really show, are there surprising differences there. And I think often what's interesting when we do this cross-cultural research, it doesn't only help us understand gamers elsewhere, but oftentimes we find interesting differences that help us rethink what we thought was normal about Western gamers. So one example was in the US and the Western European gamer research, we've always found, male and female gamers are different in these ways, and older gamers are different in these ways. For example, when we were looking at differences in the Chinese gamers, for example, the difference between male and female gamers there in an earlier preliminary sample was a lot smaller than the larger gender and age differences we see in the US and in Western Europe. So it kind of helped us, ask us a question, and we wonder, well, maybe the US gamers are the ones that are strange, and that for some reason there's such a large gender difference, whereas it's not actually a universal finding. Or maybe, China is actually the odd one out because their gaming ecosystem is more isolated. But I think these are the questions that we'll only figure out once we collect more data robustly from other East Asian cultures. And then we understand, like within East Asia, is China the odd one out? Or is this a pattern that we're seeing across China, Korea, Japan? And then that will help us understand, where the US and Western EU gamers sit as well.
So these data isn't just for players and the gamers, right? So how can game developers, either foreign studios who want to reach out and enter into the Korean gamer market, or Korean developers aiming to globally, also how these people can leverage this motivation data to refine their market strategies and ensure successes, something like that?
Yeah, I'll go through a couple like really quick examples. Like one is we can, in the survey, apart from the gaming motivations, we ask gamers about their demographics, their gender, their age, their gaming frequency. as well as specific game titles that they enjoy playing. So we can sample gamers from our data who've mentioned a particular game, and then profile, gamers who play game X, here's what their demographics looks like. Here's what their motivations look like. And so for a game that exists, we can help game developers, game companies understand if they were trying to grow the audience in a sequel, what are secondary motivations they can use to grow beyond what the game is currently anchored on. We have a lot of clients who are thinking of mashups. If I want to make a mashup between genre A and genre B, we can help them understand what are the motivations that they overlap on and that they diverge on, to help them make that business decision of what the best motivations to focus on are for that mashup. We also do a lot of studies with clients where we're conducting player segmentation within a particular game title or franchise on a genre. So say we're looking at 4X strategy or grand strategy games. What are the distinct player types within that space based on the 12 motivations? And then that helps game companies understand, if we make this feature, what's expected coverage of the target audience? And so those are just some quick examples of how we can use the data we're collecting to work with game companies as well.
Can I add some small questions?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your gamer type though?
I'm very much an architect in the gamer type. So I score high on strategy, completion, power. So I love turn-based strategy games. Fire Emblem without the story, which I know is horrifying, some people like Fire Emblem without the story. So I prefer the older Fire Emblems, back when you had a character, they burned my village, I will join your team. That's all the story I need. I like Civilization 6. I like grand strategy games like Europa Universalis. I like problem spaces where there are rules and information you have to analyze and you have to optimize the solution and work towards it and build over time.
Mine is Bard. I enjoy immerse in the lore of the game world, another world, and the stories and background. And while I'm doing this project, I learned that I expand my gamer type. The reason why I'm having the interview with you and share to Korean gamers, part of my motivation on my game journaling career, also like sharing the stories of your Quantic Foundry motivation models and, hey guys, there's something cool here. Let's do it. Let's own it. Something like that. I think not just the gamer motivation, motivate what I do with you, this project, and so on in Korean game industry, something like that.
I'm really, really glad you found us and you reached out. I think this is very much exactly the kind of collaboration that we're always open to. I think you're asking like really great questions in terms of how we connect with other frameworks, other models. This question, right, of are there different kinds of gamers is something that I've been working on for over 20 years of my life in academia, in the game industry. My business partner and I, we used to work at Ubisoft, and so this question of how do we sort, how do we compare gamers in meaningful ways, that is focused on figuring out how fun, the idea of fun is different for every gamer, and can we quantify that, make sense of it, and make games more fun, really has been something that we've been working on for so many years. So, and then we were always so happy to be able to put something like the gamer profile together. Every year, hundreds of thousands of gamers take, and then they get some enjoyment out of it. They get some personal awareness of their gaming motivations, the tailored game recommendations, and that we're still connected to the gaming community in that way. So it's been a lot of fun for us as well.
Do you have any message for the Korean gamers who are about to discover their motivation profile for the first time?
I'll tell you a funny story. You've taken the report and you see how long the report page, and you translated it. So you know how long that report page is, because we step through each motivation. we describe each motivation, we give game examples. It's a very long piece of text, and we have like a feedback survey at the end of like, and one of the questions we've always asked is this too much information? Is this not enough information? Is this just the right amount of information? And even over the years, as we keep adding more information, like the feedback has always been, we want more information. So I think, like one recommendation is that take your time, because at first it looks like a very long report. There are a lot of toggles to see additional information, but take your time to work through the report, to understand what each motivation means. We've also continually added features to the game recommendation. So there are different, like when you get to your recommended games, there are ways to filter games that came out in the past 2 years versus the past 5 years to get more recent games that are more popular versus niche, which is one of the translation issues that Min was talking about. So even in the game recommender, there are all these buttons and sliders to fine tune your recommendations. So I think one recommendation is like, it is a quick survey. It's a 5-minute survey and you get the report. But once you get the report, you can just look for the high level finding, but you can also take your time and read through carefully. And so the more time you have to play with your findings, to read the results, I think the more you'll get out of it. And then of course, if it's something that you enjoyed, we always recommend you to share with your friends, and then you can compare, how your motivations are similar or different to your friend group, for example.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for the interview.
Absolutely. Thanks again for reaching out, and like for all the hard work you put in, you thinking through all the cultural nuances.
In Korea, thank you is 감사합니다. So 감사합니다.
Yeah, thank you so much, Minwoo. Okay, you take care.
I might use some
어둠의 게임
Mandarins.
기자 줄여서
I believe
김기.
you know some Mandarins, but there's a few Mandarins that I can use. For example, 我胖了. Like, I mean,
that is a
yeah. I think
that's a really funny Mandarin phrase to know. Okay. Sorry. Hilarious. You know what? No, you know what? It's funny also because for me, all my life is, I always hear the opposite, right? All my life, like my parents and my relatives in Cantonese, like you've gotten thinner, right? Because they're like, you always eat more. But that's like, yeah, so Asian, yeah.
So